1. The world's just one big makeshift troupe, and I'm way out of place. My dad's a financial mogul, but I can't even do simple math under 10. My mom's a stunning movie star and I look completely average. My brother started his own art exhibit at 4, while I was just babbling behind him at 5. Even Maggie, our maid, and Tom, the butler, turn out to be retired big shots. Luckily, they all really pamper me. I learned to make peace with it. But then one day, a genius girl who's got everyone talking online shows up at my door. She says I should give up my spot as the real heiress. Well, guess what? That nagging suspicion I had finally died out. I always felt like I didn't belong in this family. My dad's this big shot in finance, my mom's a famous actress. But I'm just okay in the brains department, and my looks are nothing to write home about. Then there's my brother, who's an all-around superstar. Founded an art exhibit at 4, joined a gifted program at 8, and ranked among the top 10 most handsome faces at 15. Sure, I could be jealous, twisted, or crawl in the shadows. But instead, I chose to be at peace with who I am. After all, you can't always bank on being lucky, just floating by, taking it easy. Until the genius girl appeared. A nurse from our birth confirmed that there had been a mix-up at the hospital. Turns out, I'm the real daughter of the Greens. You're so ordinary, how could you be their daughter? Today I'm taking back what's mine, Doris asserted, her presence backed by an invisible army. Her certainty pushed us all into contemplation, well, me and another family trio at least. Cold dad. Switched at birth? Glamorous mom. How should I know? I was busy counting stretch marks after labor. Didn't the baby go with John? Stoic brother stayed silent for 3 seconds, then coolly added, I was only 3 then. Glamorous mom passed the buck, reminding about my brother's fondness for the toys he thought were the newborns, even asking to share half with his little girlfriend, Nancy. Nancy's not my girlfriend, but every time she saw me, she'd sweetly call me Mom instead. Doris was visibly annoyed. Just as my mom and brother started veering off topic, Doris cut in, Dad, Mom, brother, look at my face, then hers, I look like I belong. She gestured at me. I touched my utterly ordinary face and nodded in agreement. Since I was a child, all praise my brother got included words like handsome, beautiful, and a chip off Dad's block. Me? I was a nice girl at best, slightly disappointing. And I've always been a top student, whereas from what I hear, she's always been at the bottom, even bought her college degree. Doris kept on pointing fingers. I felt a bit ashamed, lowering my head. All through school, my brother was always in first place, no doubts there. Me? Always dead last, no need for debate. Teachers said I'd come around, tutored me one-on-one. Still, I landed in the ICU with high cranial pressure and left her wondering what relationships really were. Regretfully, I buckled down, tried to cram a math book before an exam. I ended up being the first ever to fill an entire test with math formulas and score a 0, becoming somewhat of a school legend. Thinking about this, I turned to my parents and brother, seriously asked, Is it possible perhaps that you all are the real family? Parents reflected. My brother's demeanor turned serious. Doris kept yelling, You don't believe I'm your daughter? I've been out in the cold for 18 years, and now that I'm back, you don't buy it. Just as the tension hit its peak, Maggie, our silent shadow, spoke up. Sir, madam, young master, young miss, isn't there a procedure called a paternity test? The test went smoothly. The results were due in a month. Doris wasn't having it, got into it with the staff. Why a month? It's by order, miss. Do you know who I am? How dare you speak to me this way? Stone-faced staff didn't budge. Doris stormed, while I wanted to hide my embarrassment. A crowd began to form and I pleaded. It's just a month. Maybe wait. Before I could finish, Doris shut me down. You shut up. Of course you'd want another month stealing my life. I won't let you. She dismissed me, turned to the lab geek, demanding, Do it today or face consequences. The consequences? Doris got a free 3-day detention. 3 days later, Doris showed up once more. She requested to move in, saying she needed the family warmth she'd missed. Cold dad, Maggie, prepare a room. Doris shed tears of joy. Deep down, you know I'm your daughter. I will cherish every moment with you all. Casting a challenging glance my way, she declared, I'm here to mend family ties. I turned away, expression unchanging. Family ties? Since I could remember, my morning started in a 500-square-foot room and breakfast on an 8-meter table. The household regulars were Maggie, Tom, the brother on weekends, and the two Doberman in the yard. Lonely and isolated defined my childhood. As a teen, I often looked to the sky, channeling the pains of youth literature, tweeting philosophical lines about how money can't purchase love or understanding. I did this until my brother enlarged my tweets into a set of motivational slides that he looped at the dining table. Past miseries are best left buried. I felt a pang of pity for Doris. Her hopes would inevitably fall short. Yet my dazzling, ever-gorgeous mom applauded joyfully, excitedly chiming in, "Wonderful! Will bridge old gaps, make you a stunning princess." Stunning princess? Upon hearing this, my brother Simon and I instinctively took a step back, hesitating. Still, watching Mom pull Doris along, the joy was undeniable. 2. I exchanged a glance with my brother. My open mouth closed again. I've got so many pretty clothes that no one ever wears. Now I've finally found a model. It's just great, Mom. If you want, I'm willing to be your model for life. Really, really? Sniff, so sweet. I'm about to cry from happiness. It's so nice to have you. Doris was over the moon. A moment later, she glanced at me out of the corner of her eye. Mom, didn't you ever dress up my sister? Well, I guess not, since she's not your biological daughter. It's not as close as a real mother and daughter. Like those two dogs in the yard, only a real mother and daughter can be that close. Fake will never be real. Doris went on, getting more and more blunt. Look at them snuggling, it's a reflection of our family. I couldn't help but point out. Both Big Yellow and Little Black are male. Doris' smile froze. Me. They've been neutered for over a decade. Doris' face turned all sorts of colors. But soon Doris was all smug again. Mom excitedly dragged her upstairs. As she left, she didn't forget to throw a victorious glance my way. She didn't notice the sympathy in my eyes. Good luck to her. Lunchtime. Still 4 people at the table. Me, my brother Simon, my mom, and her, all dolled up like some dopamine doll.
Luxury dress, fancy jewelry, high-top hat.
Not haute couture, high top. I looked at Doris with a headpiece that's 8 layers of cake decoration, her face painted like some medieval ghost, and felt nothing but sympathy. Growing up, Mom, an international movie star, aimed to create the most beautiful doll. Unfortunately, I'm pretty average, go with the flow, not her ideal canvas. My brother Simon, though gifted, inherited Dad's shark and finance vibe, and could crush Mom's ambitions with a mere look. Though Mom laid low, she'd never given up, collecting a bunch of dolls, even ordering these life-sized ones in Dad's name. It even became a headline scandal. Coming out of my thoughts, I glanced at Doris, cinched so tight she couldn't sit, so she had to stand to eat. When getting food, her headpiece teetered dangerously. When she looked down, some of the powder from her face fell into her bowl. Brother Simon. It's not Christmas, why the Christmas tree? I couldn't help but laugh. Mom was not amused. Isn't it pretty? Like a doll's. Her eyes twinkled mischievously. Simon. Dolls don't need to breathe. She's about to suffocate. Mom looked a little shifty. Concerned, she looked at Doris. But who knows what Doris, already turning purple, was thinking. Facing Mom's rare emotion, she forced a smile ghastlier than a sob. No, I feel fine. Don't force it, I kindly suggested. But she didn't appreciate it and mocked me. You wouldn't understand, the love of parents for their daughter is heavy as a mountain. What's on me isn't a shackle, it's the heavy love of my parents. After her heavy love speech, a crisp snap echoed in the air. Doris' expression twisted, body trembled. Finally, under the weight of the 8-layer cake topper, she fell backward, causing a thunderous crash followed by complete chaos. Indeed, parental love, heavy as a mountain. When Doris returned from the hospital, Dad was back too. I watched Doris, wrapped like a mummy, escorted by my parents upstairs. I silently looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle, deep in thought. Miss, don't think too much about it. After all, you've spent 18 years living with the Greens. Mary came over, draped a blanket over me, her voice comforting. I turned to face her, looked her straight in the eye, and said seriously, Mary, I figured it out. The nurse who swapped me and Doris at birth was a genius. Mary looked stunned, her eyes filled with a mix of emotions. I put a hand on her shoulder, went on. She knew Doris and the Greens were incompatible. Mary's mouth fell open. She's been here twice and already ended up like this. If she'd been here for 18 years, could she have grown up healthy? Someone must have swapped us to protect her. Doris stayed home for a few days and finally sensed something was off. At the table, she confronted me. Why am I always seeing just you? Because it's not the weekend. I ladled some soup, not bothering to look up. On weekends you might see one more person. Where are Mom and Dad? She protested. I took a sip of soup, thought for a moment. Turkey, France, Tokyo, or Paris? Her face darkened. She called me an idiot. I shrugged, helpless. I'm telling the truth. Dad's a big finance guy, Mom's always on the move for movies. But Doris couldn't take it, glaring at me until her eyes welled up. She looked so pitiful, like little Black when it was a puppy. When I first found him it looked the same, all sad and injured. But just give it a toy ball and it'd happily bounce around the yard. That toy ball is years old. If I gave it to her, little Black might mind, right? I pressed my lips, tentatively asked, how about hanging out with me? Doris burst into tears. Whatever Doris did worked. That night, my parents and brother all came back. 5 of us, 2 staff and 2 dogs filled the living room for my first ever family meeting. Doris started us off. Dad, Mom, I hope I can be your real daughter. My parents exchanged a look. The DNA results came in? Mom asked, flipping through her planner. Has that much time passed already? Feels like I just left yesterday. Cold Dad frowned, turning to his laptop. We haven't secured that South End project in 3 months? The planning department's useless. Straight-faced brother. 3 days, 18 hours, 37 minutes. Both Mom and Dad put aside their things, relieved. Doris looked even more upset. Dad, what I mean is, now that I'm back, I want to take responsibility as the Green's daughter. Not just lounging around at my age, Doris pointed at me. Samuel got it, you want to be an heir? His voice was cold, long eyes watching Doris, seeing through everything, making her a bit flustered. Doris replied earnestly. All Green's kids are equal, I just want to share the load, to become someone Mom and Dad are proud of like you. Dad, just once, I'm asking for a chance to prove myself. I've always looked up to you, wanting to be just like you. I couldn't hold it in and had to cover my mouth to stop laughing. Cough, cough. Mary and John gently reminded me from behind. I quickly hid my not-so-well-hidden grin and played it cool, trying to blend in. Doris kept talking about her loneliness over the years, desperately wanting a sense of belonging. She was really getting emotional. My mom got moved. The kid just wants acceptance, she said. Meanwhile, my dad still frowned like a boss. Then Samuel chimed in. I don't mind, he said. Hearing that, my dad finally gave in. All right, John, schedule her some courses tomorrow. Doris was ecstatic. She looked at me with an air of superiority. I just lowered my head and sighed deeply. This girl had no idea what she was getting into with these classes. The first day came and Doris was crying again. She couldn't even see over the piles of books and workbooks on tiptoe. Her little brain was ready to fry. John stood by looking unfazed. From today, he announced, we'll have experts from all fields tutoring you one-on-one, according to the young master's rules. His pace was naturally quicker, but don't worry. I've arranged a systematic study plan to ensure you catch up quickly. Today's subjects included finance, management, market analysis, planning, piano, guzheng, Yangqin, German, Arabic, Spanish, astronomy, and more. Doris couldn't take it anymore. She trembled as tears threatened to spill, still held onto a shred of hope. Why do I have to learn astronomy? John replied, it's not just that. You'll also need to learn housekeeping. All of the Green's children excel in everything. Doris pointed at me, annoyed. But she's just lounging around. She exclaimed. I was there, happily munching on chips and binge-watching a show. I looked up, confused, meeting her reddened eyes. I replied, I'm living the lazy life. Doris's face turned beet red. From then on, Doris began her 5 a.m. routine. She'd start with getting ready and breakfast, practice Yangqin for an hour, then study German for an hour. Then she'd dive into finance and other professional courses, plus an hour of piano practice until 10:30 p.m. The next day it was the same thing. At first, Doris complained about only seeing me all the time. Now she saw plenty of people, just never me. She was too busy to even miss having family time because she was practically face-planting every day. This all ended with her collapsing from exhaustion, leading to her rib fracture getting worse. She lay in bed, pale and weak. I stood by, trying to comfort her. There's nothing insurmountable if you're willing to quit. She stared at me, eyes wide with disbelief. I handed her a spicy snack. She was moved to tears but couldn't speak. Her chest rose and fell heavily, and I only heard a faint rasp. I hadn't decided if I should take back the snack when my poker-faced brother showed up. Doris cried even harder upon seeing him, looking pitiful enough to tug at anyone's heartstrings. Yet my brother, ever the jerk, acted like he didn't see her. Hands in pockets, he uttered something straight out of a cheesy romance: if you want the crown, you gotta bear its weight. Doris was crushed. Watching her lie there hopelessly, I coughed to lighten the mood. Why are you back? I asked casually. Online, he replied curtly. I got the hint, though my face clearly said no. I was about to duck out with a bathroom excuse when he cut me off. Now, my eye twitched. Little sisters are destined to be their big brother's minions, and I was no exception. So under his frosty gaze, I reluctantly put down my snack, got out my phone, and nervously opened the Honor of Kings app. Play with friends or strangers. Play safe or go all out.
I chose survival mode.
But just as I opened Timmy, Doris chimed in. Bro, are you gaming? Let me join. I looked up at Doris, incredulous. If I could, I'd give her the He-Man hand gesture and tell her to quit it. But Doris had already whipped out her phone and launched the game with a shiny grin. Bro, I'm pretty good. I can totally carry us. I mean, my brain's gotta be sharper than, well, someone's, she bragged. My hand shook a bit holding my phone. Neither my brother nor I said a word. Doris's eyes turned red, and her voice trembled. Bro, I am your sister too. We may not have grown up together, but blood is thicker than water. I don't want to tear this family apart. I just want to be part of it. Can't you see? Please don't shut me out. Listening to her, my feelings were a storm of emotions. Losing streak again. I felt nothing, this was routine. Years of knowing my brother inside out taught me that. Cool on the outside, cold-blooded on the inside. He's a master at talking trash. Oh, and his bad luck is through the roof. You couldn't say it was his lack of skills or strategy, but rank with him? Brace yourself for 10 straight losses. I blamed it on his vicious tongue that sent teammates rage quitting while the opponents went berserk. If you're missing motherly love, I can give it to you. No need to play nanny for the enemy. What's this support gear? Funeral clothes? Throw a handful of grains at your phone. Even a chicken's got better moves. You're paralyzed or what? Leading a Yao to disco on our turf? The Yao on the screen was so shaken by his insults that it wandered aimlessly, losing its way home. My brother shot a look at the bedside. Doris was devastated. I fled the room, clutching my phone, and dashed out. You yelled at her today, so now you can't come at me, I thought, perfectly aware that Doris was attempting to win over our parents and brother. Too bad she didn't succeed. 4. She sent her mom an Instagram message. Mom, you were amazing in your new lead role. I wrote a 30,000-word analysis online, and every moment was a highlight. Then this essay became a target for haters, saying Mom's image was crumbling, and she ended up getting hate trending the next day. She helped her dad organize his study. Dad, I've been really diligent studying the documents you left in your study room, and I've cleared out a lot of unnecessary materials for you. Then, several of Dad's important projects fell apart because the documents were incomplete. She made lunch for her brother, a homemade mango curry beef dish. And then her brother, who's allergic to mango, curry and beef, was taken to the hospital by 911. Apathetic dad. How much longer until the test results are out? Stylish mom. It's only been a month and 15 days. Stone-faced brother. I don't think I'm that hard to kill. I became more convinced of my view. The nurse who switched us was probably trying to protect the other 3 members of the Greens, not Doris. In the end, the family decided, no matter the test outcome, to arrange for Doris to study abroad in Argentina.
Argentina.
It's the farthest country from us. The day she heard the news, Doris cried hard and pointed at me angrily. But what about her? She screamed, aren't you going to send her away? My parents and brother were stunned. Stylish mom. Why would we send Nancy away? She looked at Doris, full of doubt. Doris became more hysterical, stomping her feet and pointing at me. She's not your daughter. I am your daughter. I'm back, so she should leave. Only one of us can stay. Stylish mom was puzzled. Only kids make choices. Why can't adults have both? Indifferent dad. Both are on the Greens family register. Stone-faced brother smirked. The Greens can afford it. I was touched. I always thought ordinary me just didn't fit in with the family, but now they've made their firm choice. Just as my tears of joy were ready to flow, I heard Mom say, "She's so dumb and we've taught her to live without a care. Can she survive outside on her own? Don't we have to take responsibility?" The tears were forced back inside. Now I know who my brother got his sharp tongue from. But Doris wasn't satisfied and insisted my parents choose between me and her, or she would cut all ties with them. Indifferent dad. Are you threatening us? Stylish mom. Will you still model for me after cutting ties? Stone-faced brother. One less to fight over the estate. Doris froze, surprised by how indifferent my parents were. She expected them to be devastated and at least caught in a dilemma. Only I understood. In wealthy families, blood ties are fragile. I heard my dad schemed against his own brother to get where he is. I grew up in the Greens' home, but I saw them aid more than my own parents every year. To them, their careers are more important than us. So, I can only say, Doris overestimated her importance. And now the joke's on her. A call from the identification office saved Doris. They let us know the results were in early so we could go pick them up. Dad, Mom, and brother took one car. My bleeding heart meant I chose to go with Doris. But wouldn't you know it, that charitable moment led to trouble. Doris and I got kidnapped. And Helen was our kidnapper. Doris was stunned. So was I. But it wasn't Helen kidnapping us that shocked me. It was that plain old Helen took down 20 of the Greens' bodyguards with just a frying pan at the age of 50. Helen, I called out, my eyes red with tears. Helen froze for a moment, looking at me with a complex expression. Miss, I'm sorry. I had orders. Don't blame me. You were so skilled at 10 years old, we couldn't even get past a crowd to get your brother's autograph. Helen. Sorry, I had to hide my abilities. Me, traitors go to hell. Doris. Are you too crazy? Is this the time for this conversation? Helen, why are you kidnapping me? Didn't you tell me I'm the Greens' real daughter? Helen's face returned to cold indifference as she looked at Doris, tied to the chair, and gritted her teeth. Simon ruined the love of my life. I swore I'd get revenge. So, I switched you with my love's daughter after you both were born, waiting for the right time to reveal it and make Simon's whole family suffer. You don't know how long I've waited for this day. Doris and I sat in rare silence, united. Her revenge plan involved going undercover as a nanny in her enemy's house, swapping children, and then choosing the right moment to reveal the truth. The world turned in ways I can't comprehend. I hesitated. Helen, do you feel a sense of revenge at all right now? A tiny bit, a shred, a sliver. Helen snapped. She yelled at me. Who'd have thought Simon wouldn't care about his family ties? I had to kidnap both daughters. Let's see which one he chooses. The air went silent for 3 seconds. I gently reminded her. Am I the daughter of the man you loved? Before Helen could respond, Dad, Mom, and brother showed up. And so did Michael. Don't come closer. I've strapped bombs to both of them. Helen kept her eyes fixed on them, releasing years of hatred. 5. Simon. You heartless jerk. You even screwed over your own brother. If it wasn't for your scheming, Samuel wouldn't have boarded that doomed flight. My dad frowned. You're avenging Samuel? Helen. That's right. Back then, to get back at you, I switched your kids. The daughter you raised for 18 years should actually call you uncle. But you didn't see that coming. You set up Samuel, but you ended up raising his daughter. My mom started crying. The child is innocent, Helen. If you want revenge, go after him directly. She dragged my dad forward. My brother shot a glance. Smart move, not letting the middleman profit. I wanted to laugh, but holding a bomb had me pretty limited. So I kept on reminding her. Helen, look at me. I'm the only legacy your lover left in this world. Helen hesitated for a second. Then her gaze turned vicious again. I can see you barely care about your real daughter at all. You're more attached to the one you raised for 18 years. So today, right in front of you, I'm going to kill you both. I want you to live the rest of your lives in pain. Helen said, about to press the button in her hand. Wait. Just in the nick of time, Michael spoke up. Wang Qing. Look at who I am. The world around me finally turned into a chaos I couldn't quite grasp. My parents aren't my parents. They're the real daughter's parents. My brother's not my brother. He's her brother. Helen's not a nanny. She's a family enemy. Michael's not a butler. He's my supposed uncle, but actually my father by blood? When Michael revealed another face for the first time, I doubted my belief in materialism, and Helen yelled in disbelief, "Jing's a brother. Michael is my uncle I never met, who was cruelly outsmarted to death by my dad." According to my so-called uncle, he wasn't really outsmarted back then. He just grew tired of the family drama, so he faked his death in an elaborate setup with my dad. Living freely for a few years, he returned under a false name to be our butler. Helen was baffled. So there's no feud? No. Then what about my 18-year-long plan? Blame it on poor judgment. The kidnapping got resolved, but there was something else important. In the Greens' living room. "So I'm your daughter?" I looked at Michael on the couch, or rather my titular uncle. Looking at that face, handsome even beyond my dad's under the mask, I didn't have the guts to move closer, suddenly feeling rather lacking. "Uncle. No, you're not my daughter. You're actually your dad's daughter." My turn to be shocked. Then my brother whipped out the DNA test results, showing them between me and Doris, and I clearly saw the 99.95% match between me and Simon. "You're my sister," my brother said coldly, his eyes scanning me with the usual disdain. "Though you really don't quite look like it."
Hélène, impossible?
She couldn't believe it. "I swapped the kids back then." She stressed. "But I swapped them back." Uncle spoke again. "Case closed." Michael explained that after Helen's initial swap, he secretly switched the kids back but kept quiet to protect Helen all these years. "Doris, so I'm your daughter?" Her eyes filled with disbelief and a hint of resistance. "Uncle. Nope, you're not my daughter either." Doris's face stiffened again. Uncle sighed. "My wife had an affair a long time ago. When I faked my death, she claimed to be pregnant to get more of the inheritance, so whose kid you are, I really don't know. But if you want, you can call me Godfather." Doris seemed frozen, her eyes wide open, her lips trembling lightly. After a long time, I felt sorry for her and offered some comfort. "If you want to cry, just go ahead." Wah. Helen was taken away by Uncle. Doris agreed to study abroad in Argentina. As for me, life went on as usual without a care. But the family atmosphere did change. Cold-hearted dad stopped being absent, glamorous mom stopped staying in hotels, my stoic brother switched from boarding school to being a day student. No more Mrs. Wang and Mr. Chan, but now there's my dad and mom. And believe it or not, my dad organized a rare family picnic. I was confused, no need to move back just for me. My stoic brother. We reflected on ourselves. From this incident, we realized we didn't give you enough security. Me, honestly, it's fine. Stoic brother. Don't think I didn't know you were ready to leave before the results came out. I froze, looking at them, swallowing hard. You knew? You knew I had secretly packed up. Ready to step aside and leave any time. Nancy, no matter how regular you are, we always knew you're our daughter. My mom turned back to me, a look of kindness I'd never seen before. She said, "I never doubted it." My heart felt hit by something. In fact, when Doris showed up, I was sure I was a fake. After all, I just didn't fit this family. They were dazzling swans and I was just an ordinary ugly duckling. Thought, I don't know why, but my nose stung a bit. I was about to say something when the man in the driver's seat chimed in. After all, no family's ancestral tomb is always blessed. I closed my eyes. Well, the suspense in my heart is finally at peace. The end.